All right, we are recording. Welcome, everybody, to the Gonzo Experience podcast. I'm so excited. This is the first time that I've actually invited a quote unquote studio audience to the podcast. So we have some people, a lot from Rochester, where I am, but really a lot from around the world as well. So, really excited to have a very special episode of the Gonzo Experience podcast today. And I have a repeat guest. I'm bringing back Natalia Burdikian. She was on a few weeks ago, and we talked about energy management and how to maximize your energy to bring, we're talking about, bring your business, your entrepreneurial leadership life to its fullest potential. But frankly, it could be for anybody. It's all about really getting in that zone, that flow of your natural energy and connecting it so that you are able to just really come alive and reach your God-given potential. I mean, that's the whole purpose I think in maximizing joy in your life is to find that energy flow, be cognizant of it, and be able to control it to bring your life to the next level. And when there are different levels of energy, which Natalia we could talk about that again for sure. But Natalia, welcome back to the show. Really, really appreciate you being back.
Thank you. I'm honored. It's a pleasure.
And you are, so I'll give your business another plug over here, Life by Design Academy. So for those that didn't hear the first episode, or, repetition is the mother of all skills. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about your journey, about where have you been and how did that get you to where you are today?
Where I've been and where I come from. Well, let's see, I come from Russia, from Moscow, and 1996, being 16, now you can calculate the rest of it, I went to California and I was an exchange student and lived in 4 different families, went to 2 different high schools in 1 year. So ever since, change is the only thing that's constant, if it wasn't before. And since then, I lived in 6 different countries. I moved, I think, over 22 different times. So, change, resilience, getting out of the comfort zone or back into the comfort zone or whatever the comfort zone actually is pretty much a native territory for me. So in terms of businesses, I've been in very different industries. I'd say 20 years of international business experience and expertise through different industries, come from corporate to being to running a chocolate factory with my business partner, to launching Life by Design, which came up when I was on top of Machu Picchu and thought, well, there's more to it, and purpose and meaning is important, and one needs to connect to their values and to who they truly are. So that started up in Machu Picchu, and here I am. I embarked on this journey of core energy coaching, which is absolutely amazing and very deep, which you'll learn more about through the session. And since then, I really love helping people and organizations to what David was talking about, reaching their full potential and working on what is standing on the way between where they are and where they want to be, whether it's for their lives or families or businesses. So, and yeah, that's short.
That's great. Well, yeah, no, we could have a whole podcast about your journey. So thanks for that. The next question I have is with what you do with your coaching and your programs in the Life by Design Academy, how do you help leaders and entrepreneurs maximize their potential in their life by harnessing their energy?
Well, that's a big secret. You'd have to book a session for that. But in all respect, we do work. It's basically meeting people where they are and meeting their challenges and their needs, and really looking at what is blocking them. Because if you really go to the core and the essence of who you are, and that's what core energy coaching does, there's a whole lot of answers down there. And at the end of the day, what we say is we do have all the answers within, but we're so busy, and our mind works in mysterious ways, and we have all these blocks that we'll also probably discuss later today that kind of block us from getting where we want to be, and adds a hell lot of frustration. So my mission is to really minimize the pain and challenges that people are facing in their daily lives and in their daily work, and have that opportunity to function in a different way. And by moving the energy up, which you'll get a peek of, you actually do get into your full potential and that maximum productivity and that sense of fulfillment and satisfaction and the success, whatever that means to you in all areas of life. And how, it's a completely different question. And that's the journey that we take throughout the core energy coaching and work that we do.
What do you see holding people back from maximizing, taking that next step towards their peak energy and their peak flow?
Good question. I would say the most obvious one is themselves, funny enough, right? And so it's all these big, the core 4 big blocks being the fears. We call them gremlins. It's that inner voice that constantly telling you you're not good enough, I can't do it, etc., etc. The assumptions, so those expectations that whatever happened in the past will actually happen again, and that the past repeats itself into the future. You can argue that as well. The interpretations, the story you're telling yourself, the opinions, the judgments, the perceptions. So you assume something, so for you it's the truth. And the limiting beliefs, which basically, your everything that hold you back, things that you think, well, that's how it's been before. This is, you have to work hard to have the money, you have to study in the university to be successful, all that stuff. It's really more society that dictates and what you make of it, really the ideas that you have in your head. And at the end of the day, funny enough, it's not true, but it all kind of stays in there and blocks us. So ourselves, because at the end of the day, we create it and we are responsible for that. And we have the choice to believe and give into it or not. And clearly there are tools and tricks for that. So that lack of awareness of what the truth really is, and there's a difference between what is being true and what is the truth. With the truth being the facts that don't have emotions attached to it, so not these interpretations and perceptions and all the rest of it, what you think is true, but it's not. And the higher you go on the energy chart, the more anabolic energy you have and the more awareness you have. And so you can make really good decisions and have that conscious choice and be fearless, etc., etc. All the good stuff up there.
Well, you touched on this. Let's talk about fear, because I love what you say about fear. And we've talked about this, how at the end of the day, fear is not real. Fear is something that we've invented in our heads that scares the heck out of us, right? And, I in my experience with fear, when I've been really, really nervous about something, and then I had the courage to put my shoulder into the experience and confront the fear, I have always found that the fear is, was always so much worse than the actual event and the actual experience, right? I'm like, why was I so nervous about that? It wasn't that bad, and we talked a little bit about that. So, and I love what you say. You talk about how, fear, it's not real. It's something that we're thinking about that, is we're projecting in the future. But you're talking about just really being present in the moment. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Certainly, and you mentioned that fear is, what it stands for, false evidence appearing real.
I love that.
There is no fear in the present moment. It's in that future that hasn't happened yet. And like what you rightly said, most of the times, 99.9%, it actually won't happen the way you think it will. But because of all these thoughts, they drain you and they put your energy down. So when that happens, you're actually not in the present moment with your full capacity and that full potential that you have, right? Because it's somewhere there in the future. And then you're also assuming that it happened in the past, so it's going to happen in the future, and you don't give yourself a chance to look at it through a different set of glasses, right? So with the fear not being the truth, because it's not a fact, right? Hasn't happened yet. And it, you start being hesitant, you tentative, you lack total lack of confidence. And what happens then, you're not playing full out. So your full potential out of the window, your clear thinking out of the window. impossible, right? And then you feel drained as well, and you can come up with all sorts of scenarios, etc. in your head. So what you can do, and there are lots of things you can do. Point one, what's important is to understand why you're feeling that. What is actually behind that fear? And the biggest one, which actually has the highest emotional weight, is that I'm not good enough. It's that gremlin, imagine this one big, hairy little gremlin that comes and tells you, you're not good enough, you're not this, you're not that. Well, if you see it or you hear it, face it, give it a name, and say, hey, Tom, yeah, I hear what you're saying. I know you want to protect me, not running behind from the lion. I know you want to protect me, but I got that. And I base it based on my experience, on my preparation, on whatever scenarios you can, write out. If it's an actual thing, write out all the scenarios, do pain and gain model. What are you actually afraid of? What's on the other side? Or how real is it? How true is that? I love it. How true is that? Back to our assumptions, interpretations, and limiting beliefs and all the rest of it. And it's so much in there. End of the day, everything is like the past, the feeling, the guilt, and the future feeling, the fear and the worry. It takes away from our 100% energy in the moment. And that's what would be great, is to learn how to be in the moment and to feel confident. And we'll go through more details about that.
Yeah, I think, this is my opinion, that fear is the thing that holds people back the most from maxing out their potential and just being like who they are supposed to be full out on their life, right? And my goal, I have this vision that, and I hope it's 75 years from now, but when my time comes and I'm going up to the pearly gates, and I have this vision, like God is going to introduce me to the person that I could have been if I fully maxed out my potential. And and it'll be so cool if like I am that person, if I could say I did it, like I maxed, like I'm the same person, because I think I'll have so much regret, and I'll be really upset if I look at that person that I could have been and there's a big gap, like I did not max out my full potential. So I think about that, I think about like, how can I make sure that that I'm really getting in touch with my own energy, and making sure that I'm focusing my God-given talents to make sure that I'm that guy that is that maxed out guy that I meet in heaven.
What's the worst thing that can happen?
Yeah.
When you're down there, you will regret things you haven't done, right?
Right.
For example. But we can discuss, especially in the questions and answers. I would love people to actually relate maybe to their own cases that you guys can think of now, that we can discuss something in concretely, and you can question me to make sure that you do get the answers to questions and doubts and fears that you have. But on that fear, it's very related to confidence, right? Because we're in that fear state. We think we're not good enough, or we don't have enough confidence level. The thing is that confidence is an internal capability. So you actually have it within you. So you don't need to wait for an external factor to prove that you got it, right? And so your experience, and hence being aware what was and what is and who you are and what is around you, so that sense of awareness, we're coming back to that truth, the acceptance of where you are and who you are is part of that. And trusting yourself based on all that experience you got until that moment, you can trust yourself that you got it. And if there's certain doubts and there's a complex situation in your future, be it in the business, purchasing a company, selling a company, getting divorced or not, all sorts of situations like that, you can map out all the scenarios and make that safety net analysis. And there are plenty of tools on my website for that, by the way. You can use it for free. That gives you that confidence that you got it, that you have the toolkits to solve that in the future. But again, fear does not live in the present moment. And that's the most beautiful thing you can think of. A few weeks ago, it was a month ago, I was at this roller coaster thing in Greece, in Athens. I know, regardless of the COVID, I do manage to travel still because I'm a big travel freak. So we were at this roller coaster, and there was this, we were on the top about to go down. So I'm like screaming, fear is not present in the real moment. Fear is not present in the real moment. And that's the thing, once you relax and let it go, and that's what happens in the high energy levels, you get into the flow and you have that sense of surrender, because there it's actually not so scary. What is scary are your thoughts, and we make ourselves so stressed because of that, that we get diseases, that we get burnouts, anxieties, and we stress everybody else. And that's part of also description of the 2 types of energies that we'll cover, is that this kind of energy not only drains you, it drains everyone else. It affects, like, energy attracts like energy, right? And it takes away from your body cells as well. And at the end of the day, what have you got to lose? We had a really good ride on that roller coaster, by the way, but that so I was telling people, fear is not real in the present moment. It did help.
Great example. Well, to talk about energy, like, we can totally feel like if we're in a meeting and someone comes in the room, and they have great energy, and they're joyful and passionate, like, it lifts the whole room up, right? Like, we can feel that energy. Or if someone comes in anxious, maybe they're late, maybe they don't want to be at the meeting, and we can feel it. That just brings down the whole room, right? So I think you're right. I think it's very, very contagious. And I know that, continuing the conversation of fear, conversely developing fearlessness, I know that you have some disciplines, right, of how we can live a fearlessness. I can't say that word well. Fearlessness life. Maybe you can say it better.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's the whole thing with fear. Fear is different. To be fearless is different. Well, to be fearless or to have fearlessness.
Yes.
You'd know better, is different from courage, because courage is acting in spite of fear. So when you have fearlessness, there is no fear to overcome. You're in that flow.
So what are I know you have some great strategies, some great disciplines on how we could build that muscle, right?
Right. Well, and that's the thing I covered a little bit already. You have to pass through those stages of awareness and acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
And awareness being what is and what was, whether it's for yourself or the people, circumstances, what reality really is, the truth, right? And have no emotions associated with those fears, because it's what we interpret it is that gives us those negative emotions. You can see it through a different set of glasses. You can put pink glasses and see it pink, or you can put blue glasses and see it blue. You can put the glasses that it's gonna be bad, the world is coming down on me, there's COVID, lack of opportunities, lack of money, etc., people are quitting, etc. Or you can put a different set of glasses, that would be on a higher level then, that there are always opportunities. The people are there, you're not alone, there's a collaborative state, there's plenty of ideas, plenty of energy, because you choose to be in a different state, right? So once you have the awareness, the acceptance, what is, and acceptance, I don't mean by you give in and you give up. Acceptance by the senses, you know what is, you accept it as it is, and you can consciously choose what to do about it. You can choose which direction to take. And moreover, you can also adapt it on the way. There is no such thing as making a mistake. You learn from every single experience. So when you get into that awareness, acceptance, conscious choice, and trusting the process, because you believe in your capability and you know that you can correct and you can think about the long term, you get into that flow. And what I really love in that trusting the process is that sense of mastery, because mastery is a mindset, is not a skill. And what it means is that you're in constant and continuous improvement. So no matter whatever you do, there is no right or wrong. You have this, you release the judgment thing, and you know that you learn from it. Because if you look at all your fearful situations, you said it yourself, what was the worst thing that happened? Can you think of situations where it worked out exactly how you thought it would, and you haven't learned anything, and you haven't moved forward? Impossible. So
it goes back to that saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right?
it does, but that's also a limiting belief. It doesn't have to be so difficult to become stronger.
Mm-hmm.
If you believe that it has to be difficult for you to be stronger, that's also a limiting belief. So technically, you're also attracting that on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Energy attracts like energy type of thing. And we tend to cannibalize and stuff.
Well,
sabotage our lives.
We talked about the Personality Isn't Permanent book, which I think you're reading now, and I think Nola, you're on it as well, by Dr. Benjamin Hardy. And he said something so enlightening to me, because we all make mistakes, and I make a ton, and I'm hard on myself. I look back, I'm like, oh, why did I do that? And he twisted it for me. He totally turned that around and saying, if you're not embarrassed by who you were 6 months ago or a year ago, then you should be upset with yourself, because you should be continuously improving. You should be making mistakes, getting better, looking back and forgiving yourself, and having compassion for your past self and moving on, right? Using those experiences to say, all right, those mistakes were building blocks so that I can get better and better and better every day. And so now I feel much better about all my mistakes, and there's a lot, and I'm going to make more tomorrow, but that's okay. Hopefully in 1 year from now, I'll look back, I'll say, what the hell was I doing? But I'll be proud that I was able to put my shoulder into moving forward, knowing that I was going to do some things right, and knowing that I was going to make a lot of mistakes, but getting better along the way. And I think that was really helped me with everything, when he said, look back and forgive yourself and have compassion and be happy that it happened. Because if you're the same person you were a year ago, that's not great. That means you haven't moved forward. You haven't taken any chances. You probably have stuck with your fear and your limiting beliefs, and you haven't learned anything, right? So I love what you're saying. I love the whole idea of just continuing to move forward. And it's okay if you're going to make some mistakes, because it's going to make you a better person in the end.
Exactly. And it's the energy that you put into that. Even the word mistake or failure, I mean, lots of people talk about it. If you look at it as a learning opportunity, it's a different energy. It's a positive energy, if you wish, the anabolic in our definitions. And that's the kind of thing that makes you grow, and also attracts it as well, attracts the light type of energy into your life. So more opportunities instead of mistakes. Opportunities. So it's all about how you see it. Yeah, we never lose. Correct. Maybe I can put some comment. Yeah, now I can see.
Yeah.
And so it's all, fear is creation of our mind, right? False evidence appearing real, and we can choose what to fear and what not to fear. At the end of the day, mind is so powerful, and giving into it, why? And that's the thing, if we challenge those assumptions that whatever happened in the past will happen again. But like you said, we are not the same people we were in the past. The chances are, even if one doesn't want to learn and do all this work on their personalities and growth, they're still not the same people they were a year or two ago. So by definition, what happened in the past will not be the same outcome. So you can't use that as a justification of the fear. Okay.
Very true. We got a great comment from Kathleen Pringle. We never lose. We either win or we learn, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Love that.
Well, yeah. At a high level energy, you will learn it's not about winning and losing altogether. So
it's about the experience, right? It's about getting better. So
A learning, it's an experience.
we have a question from Michael as well. Is a core mission or purpose a prerequisite for energy? He says, put another way, if we're trying to reach our potential, is there a further question of potential for what?
That's the question back to you. Potential for what? It's your own potential, and we have it within. We are capable whatever we capable of and whatever we want and wish for ourselves. So tapping into that full potential is by getting rid of all that fog. It's starting with the head, the emotions and our actions, etc. Because it's there. It's like abundance. It's there. If we just get rid of all the limiting beliefs and just get it, it's same like love. Love is there. One can say, I don't find this person and that person, and he doesn't agree with me, and I don't know what. It's the same thing. It's how we show up is what we get. And it's like, we don't get what we want, we get what we are, who we are. And like what Dave was saying, personality is not permanent. So if you want to change the who, because it needs to help you to get somewhere else, then one needs to work on their who. I mean, the kind of who that show up in a different way. And that's where raising energy really helps.
Yeah, you could totally recognize, I could anyway, when someone is really in a good flow of energy, right? Like they're, usually with their career, they're like in their zone of genius, right? That's just where they belong, and it kind of everything flows. And then a lot of times what I have found is if you find a great zone of energy in one area of your life, a lot of other areas of your life start to fall into place, right? It seems like that energy is contagious to different categories of your life. Do you find that to be true?
It is. And since I got into this whole thing, I noticed that everywhere, because it's the mindset, really. It's the attitude. It's the attitude to life. It's the attitude about yourself and about the life in general, the world. So if you change your attitude, everything changes. If you change, everything changes. But yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much so. I see the world very different. I see them through 7 levels of energy. So I do have a tool which I would love to share with the world, and it helps. It really helps to get rid of all that suffering that's unnecessary and all the drains and things in such a simple way. Maybe simple. We can simplify it.
Oh, that's great. Well, and we've talked about that. There's 2 types of energy, which I would love for you to dig into again. There's catabolic energy, which is not good. Then there's anabolic energy, which is all the energy that we want to strive for. And then there's even different levels of energy, which, throughout the day or maybe even the hour that, we're going to experience. But we're, always striving for level 7. So please share with us those 2 levels, those 2 types of energy, and then the different levels as well.
Sure. I just want to get back to what energy refers to. So the energy refers to the core energy that is at the core of your thoughts, emotions, and actions. And that relate to how you see yourself, the world, and others, right? So you have the energy available to you at any given moment. Imagine energy as being 100%. And that's the 100% of energy that is your full potential. That's your highest performance. That's what, if you use it 100%. And that energy divides into 2 types of energy, and you can choose which one you like. So there's the catabolic one that is draining and disruptive. It's basically, this energy is releasing catabolic chemicals that are like cortisol and adrenaline. So it eats from your body cells. So the more you experience that draining energy, and we'll discuss what actually gets you there, the more physically as well you feel drained. You have those moments when you're like, I don't want to do it. And then all the stuff like, I'm not good enough, happened before, and all the rest of it. But you feel like drained energy, or it's the state where you are more reactive. You have a sense of fear, dissatisfaction, worry, anxiety, problems are everywhere. You blame others. There's aggressivity, lack of compassion, kindness, lack of passion. And the people get into that state of inaction. right? More likely. So that's the catabolic one. So you also know the kind of leaders that, when they open the door, it feels like people feel, I've had that before 20 years ago, the person opens the door and everybody is like, I wasn't having now. And we call it toxic people as well sometimes, but it's that kind of energy that is either just no energy because a person is really in the inaction and apathy state, kind of pre-depression state, just before the burnout, or in that state of, like, we have to meet those deadlines and we have to get it. I don't care how you're going to do it. And that's that aggressive, frustrated type. And they're both in the same category. What you mentioned is that that's a bad category to be at. The thing is, there is no such thing as bad or good energy. Actually, they both serve a purpose. So, and they both have advantages and disadvantages. In the first type, the level 1, where you're feeling like a victim and everything is you're feeling at the effect of life situation, the COVID happened, it's not my fault, I'm not good enough, why bother type of state, lack of productivity, etc. As a result of it, the advantage of it, someone else is going to do it for you, right? So in your businesses, you might maybe notice that some people do more than others and some have more excuses than others, and they keep on coming up with those excuses, or in your family situation or whatever. In your hiring processes, if you do competency-based interviews or you use the energy leadership assessment test, if the person is predominantly in that level 1, you might want to think what is actually draining him and causing him all these attitudes and beliefs and behaviors and stuff, because there's fundamental, all these blocks and influencers, unless it's a psychiatric case that, then send it to the therapy. And the one in the level 2 being antagonists and fighters, they are getting into action and they're more, performance oriented. They think that, well, if something has to be done, they're better people to do it because you can't count on someone else and stuff. There's also a positive thing, because when you really need to get something done or win a marathon or keep those deadlines, that person is going to make it work and is going to push himself and everyone else, but it might be working. But on the long term, it's quite draining, as you can imagine. And also, you're not going to be friends with many people in the long term. So that's the catabolic, the level 1 and level 2. And then we get in that good stuff, which we definitely want more of, is the anabolic energy. So it's that building force. It's like expansion, like when you sit on top of the mountain and it's there. It's that place of abundance, of true passion, of wisdom, of inspiration. It's you can think of all the great leaders, but basically that energy creates hormones that are endorphin and dopamine. So it's really constructive, and that's the kind of energy you want more of. And the higher you go, the level 3 would be, person that starts rationalizing and takes responsibility, etc., starts collaborating, is starting to forgive self and others. The problem there is there's this toleration mechanism, right? So the more you tolerate, that employee is good enough, I've hired them, spend all that money, but I don't want to start over. Or that marriage has been there, I made the commitment, it should work, I'm going to make it work, but you're going to drain right down after a certain time. Then the level 4 is more about service and helping others, etc., etc. That's really great, as long as you're not doing everything for someone else or you're forgetting to self-care. But it's great to move up, start thinking of the others. And at level 5, being opportunistic, it's all about win-win. It's all about creating those opportunities. You always know there are plenty of ideas, etc., and you act on it. You have more confidence. You're in that state of, getting closer to that flow and intuition, right? And a 6 is that state of flow and passion and wisdom and intuition and thing, when you're in your zone. And then the 7, not necessarily you can physically be on that level. It's that state of consciousness and self-transcendence that you can definitely tap into it, be it at meditation state or in those lucid dreams that I love so so much, or you tap into it by thinking about it. And I can give you the guide of walking through it, but basically, if you want to be at a higher level, you embrace that the thoughts that are at the higher level of energies. So the thoughts of opportunities, the thought that everybody is connected, the thought that it's not about winning and losing, because we are all connected and there are plenty of opportunities and we can come up with solutions, because there are only solutions and learnings. And so that state of continuous improvement, having that long-term mindset, whatever happens in your companies right now or in your homes or wherever, if you think of what is your full potential and where do you want to be, because you can be there, and you come from that state of energy, everything else sort of works out much easier. Somehow solutions are there, people are coming around, the money, the whatever. It's not magic, it works.
Yeah, well, Natalia, it seems like it's a very instigative effort to create the habits that allow us to maximize the anabolic energy, right? I feel like we're almost like our default program is to have the anxiety, have the fear, which creates the catabolic energy, and that we have to be very purposeful in pushing forward with our habits and our thoughts to create, instead of, we don't want the cortisol, we want the endorphins, right? Which the anabolic.
Those are the drugs.
Another drug. We want the good drug, and the anabolic energy. So, with your experience, what are some habits that we can do every day to? I mean, it's going to happen, right? I mean, the tide goes in, the tide goes out. Some days it's just, even the most positive people in the world, they're going to feel down some days. They're going to have low energy some days, right? How do we, instigate these habits so that we could bring ourselves back to that good place of creating anabolic energy?
Certainly. Depends where you find yourself. So that's what helped me, and what I put into practice is that point one, awareness of the levels and the awareness of where you are. How are you feeling? What thoughts are running through your mind? Because at the end of the day, if you look at the whole thing, it's about the thoughts, what I said, core energy, at the core of your thoughts, emotions, and actions. So you look at your thoughts, and you can look at your actions, change the actions, you change the feeling, and you change the thought habit, the thought pattern, or the other way around. And it's funny, but it works. If you want to feel useful, get onto the level 4 and help somebody. You automatically feel much better. Create that collaboration, come up with ideas, get yourself a team to discuss it. You get into that level 5. So if you want to be at a certain level, take those actions and those thoughts in order to recreate it. What I personally do, well, breathing helps. the breathing, the yoga, the meditation. I have this yoga that's connecting the mind, the body, and the soul. So I do it religiously since COVID started, every day, at least 20 minutes. And it's not a big time investment, but actually makes such a huge difference. It's amazing. Connecting to the nature, and you also connect to yourself, because at the end of the day, also at the higher levels, you connect to your intuition. You have that sense of authenticity. You start hearing, because the answers are there, and the correct answers are there. That higher coach within you actually knows. So avoiding catabolic people, but you also shift, and you actually stop being interested being around those people that always bring you down and have all these excuses. Unless their excuse is valid, you can help them to raise their energy up. That's fine. What else? I look at the influencers of energy, and that's an interesting thing, because what influencing us can be spiritual and influences. Are you connected to your purpose and your values? Is your team connected, or they're totally not aligned? Because that also can drain you. You know, you feel like you have this great business and it all makes sense. You've been doing it for many years, but you don't feel connected. You actually want to do something else. And that's that spiritual influencer that also drains you, and that rightly so. Mental influencer, are you bored, or you just overly intellectually stimulated? You just don't know what to do and how to do it. That drains you as well. So start recognizing how you feel and where the block could be, those drainers. Emotional one, you know, how are your needs and expectations being met? Can you actually express emotions? What about other people? The physical drainer, do you sleep enough? You know, we all work here, you don't do enough exercises, all of that stuff also influences. Social, you know, do you have the environment you feel comfortable in, that you like, or is it too competitive or not competitive enough for your liking, whatever that is. The environment, too hot, too cold. Now I'm in front of the sea and I love it, I feel much better. So clearly that helps. What else?
Enough water. Gotta have enough water.
Yeah. Enough water. Yeah, I had this whole thing with eating fruits every day, drinking water, drinking tea. I got onto non-caffeine coffee or decaf coffee. I stopped the alcohol thing. And it's not like I'm trying to be too religious about all this stuff. I just know that for me it works, and I feel much physically better, so it affects my mental health as well and my energy and stuff. The tools, you know, and in EO that I'm part of, we practice the non-judgment stuff, and part of coaching is the non-judgment. But it's so difficult not to judge yourself and others and everything that happens around you. We programmed to do it. Those are those gremlins and the fears and the stuff. So if you try to not judge as good or bad, the right or not, you know, mistake or not mistake, just don't judge. Just go with that flow of life, that continuous improvement, and try to be an observer and not just a participant. And that means, you know, when you're in the moment, start reflecting. So what am I feeling, and what about not reacting, and how does it look from the outside? And at that level 6 and 7, you are actually an observer. It's like you're floating above, and like, you know, it's fine because I know where I'm going, and it's fine. Time is an illusion, actually, and there's a lot of thing about, everybody talks about time management and everything. In the present moment, if you're fully in the present moment, doing the best you can, you use the time the way you want it in the best way possible. Time management, we just start spreading ourselves and we never actually achieve anything. What else? Not taking things personally. No, hard thing, but in that higher level, at the end of the day, we lose the self. The level 1 is more about me, you know, why is it happening to me? You kind of like go inwards. At the high level, you lose that sense of self, that self transcendence, you know, the higher, you know, the more conscious you are. And try to listen to the body, because the times when we feel in conflict, whether it's with someone else or yourself, it's basically where the values don't meet. There's a conflict of values, and that's very important to go back to what your values are and that purpose that we were talking about. So at the end of the day, life is short. You can't live someone else's life, and that I found it very important. On that top of Machu Picchu, I thought it should be something else. And stuff like, what do you really want to do versus have to do? And that's the type of thing we go through when I work with people on raising their energy levels and being the better leaders they can be in lives or businesses. It's really going through all these things, and rather than being at motion in life, really looking at what are the challenges, what's blocking you, what are your thoughts and the feelings about it. And it's perfectly natural you feel that way. So let's look deeper and have a different toolkit, success formula for the person.
Yeah, a lot of amazing stuff. Something that resonated with me is, you know, throughout my life, I've been a people pleaser. And up until recently, I just said, why am I living to make these people happy instead of living to make myself happy? And I feel like, if I make myself happy, people that truly love me and care for me will be happy too. But if I'm trying to live for someone else's expectations that's not aligned with my energy or what I want to do with my life, that's when I start to feel the stress, right? That's when the catabolic energy starts to create. And I think that you said one thing really amazing just a few minutes ago about surrounding yourself with the right people. And I have found that I have different people that I've met at like great times in my life to help just bring me to the next level. And I can maybe bring them to the next level as well. But conversely, along that path, I have also had to, we'll say, prune the rose bush of some people as well, right? Like some people that got me to a certain stage in my life are not the same people to bring me to the next stage in my life. And maybe that sounds mean, and I'm not gonna be cruel to them, but I might not just be hanging out with them as much anymore because they're not the right people. They're not creating the right environment for me to get to that next level, right? And there's people that I've known, that I knew in high school and college and beyond that, I still love them and I wish them well, but I'm just not connecting with them anymore. They're not the people to help me maximize my life, And then there's somebody like on the Zoom call, I'm looking at Kathleen Pringle. Hi, I've known Kathleen for a long time. And Kathleen has been a great energy source for me, 8 years ago and continues today. So I think that's one of the most poignant things that you said is really taking a look at the people in your environment, and are they the right people to help bring you to the next level? And also, are you the right person to help to bring them to the next level? Because that's a great way to bring your energy and joy to maximize that is to help others as well. I think you mentioned that in level 4.
So
right?
you go from self to, and that's what happens, in relationships, in our communications, etc. We want to grasp stuff, whether it's the person or stuff, materialistic, the needs, the possessions, whatever. At a higher level, it's not about you. It's not about having, it's about being. Because where you are, you have it all, because abundance is there, and the right people will be the right people, the people that resonate. I read different books that I did 10 years, even 2 years ago, and that's fine. It's my journey, and that's beautiful.
Yep. Well, thank you, Natalia. That was incredible. What I want to do is I want to open up the Zoom floor to any questions. This is the first time on the podcast that we have a live studio audience, and we get to have questions. So if anybody wants to ask Natalia a question, if you're on video, raise your real hand and I'll unmute you, or if you can raise your Zoom hand and I'll unmute you too. Any questions for Natalia?
Yeah, by all means, use it as for yourself.
Looks like we've covered everything. Oh, we have Kathleen Pringle. Kathleen, I'm going to unmute you, or you can unmute yourself, I think, right? So
yeah.
There you go. Kathleen Pringle.
Nice to see everybody. Natalia, knowing that you were going to be speaking today, I hopped on your website yesterday, and great tools, and I encourage everybody to visit and see. I also do a lot of coaching with leaders and especially around career, but the assessment that you've got on your website, the free assessment, is that the energy assessment you're talking about?
No, that's a different one. The free one is more around goals, and they are a wheel of life, so personal, business, finance, relationships, etc. And the goals and your vision for the future. And the energy leadership assessment is the tool that is IP'd with IPAC, the founder of the methodology of 30 years ago, and that's a brilliant tool to use for individuals, but also within teams, and really see what levels they are at on a good day and default, or under stress, and what brings them in that stress.
Okay.
So
are you offering that opportunity for people to engage with you, to take the assessment and have a debrief with you?
Yeah,
know,
that's
per
what
week?
it's definitely recommended, because after 20 minutes of assessment, you do get a brief report, but it's in a very deep dive briefing that is over an hour, that we really go into where you are at and why you're there and what is your default and under stress states. And it can go from anything you cover, from childhood blocks and those limiting beliefs, up to your development plan and how to get there, and when you are, why, and how to raise your energy and how to raise your full potential and productivity, capacity, fulfillment, and all the rest
How do
of it.
people access that with you? Which is the, how do
Just send me an email, and then we'll plan it.
okay.
Well,
Great.
speaking to that, so Natalia, we talked about that if people want to get in touch with you, once again, you could give us your website address and your email address. And if anybody ever wants to, get a personal introduction, they can email me, david@thegonzoexperience.com, and I'll give you a personal intro. Anybody on the Zoom call, or anybody just listening today on the podcast as well, I'll give you a personal intro to Natalia. And we also, Natalia, we talked about that, with your services, you have coaching services and programs, and you wanted to offer our group here today and anybody listening a great special. So why don't you tell us about that, please?
Yeah, so the special is that everybody on this call, and until the 25th of December, you can have 40% off the coaching program, the Energy Leadership Coaching Program, which is part of the COVID Christmas gift and our collaboration here. So you can take that as an advantage as well.
Excellent. Well, thank you. We appreciate that. Natalia put her information here in the notes, but I'll just say it too. It's contact at lifebydesign-academy.com. You can email her there. And our website is lifebydesign-academy.com. And once again, throw me an email. I'll be happy to pass this information on to you, make a personal introduction, david@thegonzoexperience.com. I really appreciate it. Is there any more questions before we wrap up the show here? All in a good place. All right.
Yeah.
Annette, did you have a question? You look like you were about to ask a question.
I just wanted to comment how I just really appreciate hearing, and I would love to contact you, Natalia, just to hear a little more. Great.
I'd be happy to.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. That's what I'm here for. Raise awareness, raise energy levels, and help you live a different life that you aspire.
Of course. Thank you.
Well, all right. Well, I want to thank everybody. Thank you for everybody for being here and sticking with the whole program, the whole show here today. Really appreciate it. I know we're all zoomed out, so I'm trying to bring you the best to bring your Zooming experience to the next level. And Natalia, thank you for making that happen. Truly appreciate it. And I want to thank everybody for that have listened to this episode as well, the Gonzo Experience. Make sure to subscribe to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, whatever you use, and please rate and review us as well. I want to wish everybody a great holiday season, and I'm encouraging everybody to maximize your energy to the next level. Have a great day, everybody.
Happy holiday season. Nice meeting you all.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.